and welcome back to Anonymators Review, where today we're going to talk about Bojack Horseman Season 2. With me is Emily.
Hello!
And we're recording in a little box I made, so it might sound a bit different, who knows, I'm hoping it'll be great. But yeah, so we're not going to do spoilers exactly, we are going to talk a lot about the show, so I mean, if you want to go in clean-headed, I'd be very cautious about this. If you don't care about spoilers, then it's fine. But we're going to try and opt as few spoilers as possible. But we're going to, I know I'm going to talk about some things that I really liked and ideas that were in the show. And I might give away, I don't think I'll give away plot points, but I'll definitely give away like little gags or something.
Yeah.
So it's up to you.
Well, I mean, if you've never seen Bojack Horseman, and you're not quite sure if you want to see it, definitely check out our first review. We do kind of get very spoilerish. We basically go through every episode. We're not going to do that anymore.
Yeah, we're not going to do the breakdown of each episode. We are going to talk about this.
It took way too friggin' long.
Yeah. I mean, even though it's only 12 episodes for season 2, I don't know if season 1 was 13 or
it was
12 episodes. Yeah. But yeah, it's pretty much all out on Netflix. It's a Netflix original.
Yeah.
So
I actually meant to go see the Christmas special and Horsing Around.
Didn't we watch it together? I know I've seen it.
We did see the Christmas special.
Yeah, it's basically in the Christmas special. All they do is like sit and watch a Christmas episode of Horsing Around.
Yeah.
Horsing Around is I mean, if you're listening to season 2, I'm surprised you don't know this, but Horsing Around is the name of the 90s sitcom that Bojack Horseman used to be the star of. Okay, so let's get into it. I'm gonna give you my basic opinions on season 2, and I will say this much at least. I think it's stronger than season 1.
You think so?
I do think it because now we've established the characters, right? Whereas season 1 definitely introduced the characters, and there's a lot of times in season 1 you're always expecting, and I'll admit even in season 2 I was expecting there's like lots of little happy endings for everybody. That just didn't happen, which is like seems to be like the biggest motif of the show is a constant sort of, it's like, oh, I'm like the characters are building up towards their happiness. It's like, oh, this is the thing that'll make me happy, and either they realize too late or too soon or whatever, but they realize like Bojack's definitely self-destructive, and he'll destroy the things that he assumes make him happy. And so you could always argue that, oh, he's looking for the happiness, but when he realizes that's not making him happy, he chases it away. Whereas he thinks, oh, he's just destroying it or chasing people away. He's actually just trying to find that pure uncut happiness. That's what he wants. He wants to be genuinely happy. He doesn't want to be, that's what I was looking for. But, he doesn't want to be on the outside happy. He doesn't just want to be.
He wants to be fulfilled.
Yeah, he doesn't want to look at a catalog and buy the 5 things that will quote unquote make him happy. It's like, no, he wants to find the genuine thing that makes him happy. Which arguably it looks like he towards the end of season 2 or at the end of season 2 looks like he is on a better track for it. Season 2 definitely ends on a. I mean, season 1 ended on a nice note too, where they were sitting on the roof like that. And honestly, for all intents and purposes, I would have, if Bojack Horseman never continued past season 1, I'd be happy with that.
Yeah.
I didn't need more. And so coming into season 2, I was very, are they going to ruin a good thing?
Yeah.
And I don't think they did. I think, that's why I said, I think it's stronger because now it's built on those foundations and they're still talking about the things that they want to talk about, which I'll get into more depth as we go on. But they definitely approach certain subjects like a lot clearer now because like we know Bojack, we know Princess Carolyn, we know these characters a little bit more, and so yeah, I'm really impressed with it.
Yeah, my sentiments exactly, and it really kind of surprises me to hear you say that because as you and I have discussed off mic, you don't like being sad.
Yeah, but this is different. This is I don't like being sad. I don't like shows like what are like for example Attack on Titan. I am not a fan of it, and I don't think it's good because it's one of those it's emotion bait, I guess, for lack of a better term. Like it's we're gonna just make you like this is not that sadness. This is not this is like you're not sad for Bojack because he's ruining his own life.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you're not sad for Princess. Well, I mean, maybe Princess Caroline. I could be a bit sad because she seems to be genuinely a nice person and she's working hard. But I mean, her shitty situations aren't nearly as bad as Bojack's. You know.
Yeah.
Who's the writer? Diane.
Diane, yeah.
Like Diane. I mean, yeah, sure. Like, I mean, what's happened to her at the end was like really, really bad. But or you know, towards the end, but like it's within it's their fault. It's not some sort of like outside circumstance that they've got nothing to do with. That it's not like the writers are writing like, oh, how bad can we make their lives, and let's just make it that bad for no reason. There's reasons behind each of the characters suffering, you know, and again, mostly usually due to their own actions. And to me, that, I mean, yeah, I feel bad for them, but it's like I want them to, and that's what they do too. They work hard. And who would have thought such a simplified cartoon about horse people or animal people filled with all these ridiculous animal puns? I mean, the first 2-3 episodes,
animal puns.
I was just blown away by like just some like there's a scene where in this war-torn country there's these foxes shooting guns out of a foxhole. You know, they're the soldiers. Or I mean, what else was I laughing at? There's so many little.
Oh, MSNBC.
It was C instead of the letter C. It's the ocean C, and then but I mean that's from season 1. I just guess I didn't recognize it. But I mean, there was so many like animal puns, and then they get to a point in the show. What was the name of the store? That was like the name of the store, but it was like the real name of the store. Lowe's, yeah, it's like Lowe's is the name of the store, but it's like, and then like subtext it says, but an animal version. So they couldn't come up with a pun, obviously, so they were like, oh, we'll just go. And I love stuff like that, and it's all in the background. It's all these little jokes in the background that, you know, like, even though the show itself is very busy and like gets you invested, you can, if you just look in the background for like 1 second, you'll see something very silly and funny.
They brought again back the jokes with like, what was it? Mr. Peanut Butter gets a banner for something or other.
In season 1, one of my favorite gags was Mr. Peanut Butter got like this banner for like a birthday or something, and like I can't remember exactly what it said, but it was something like the banner says "Happy Birthday" and say it on the banner, or like or so and so is 2 words. It was like
congratulations, Diane and Mr. Peanut Butter, and on the subtext is Mr. Peanut Butter is 1 word.
Yes, there we go, and so. And then the second time they get a banner like that too, and for Mr. Peanut Butter. And then the banner says also, congratulations, Mr. Peanut Butter. And then in subtext, Mr. Peanut Butter is 1 word, but don't write Mr. Peanut Butter is 1 word. and so they bring that gag back. What was it for? It was for Diane's birthday. Oh yes, it says, happy birthday, Diane, in like this very plain font. And below it says, and please use a pretty font. And I don't know. I mean, that tickles me. So that was really clever. I liked it because I mean that's what happens, you know.
I think also at the end of the season, Diane also had pajama. It was really hard to read, but apparently Diane had these like pajama shirts from like also Mr. Peanut Butter ordered, and it was obviously a picture of her and Mr. Peanut Butter. And it was like something like a event that happened in the show earlier.
It was her birthday, yeah.
Yeah, it was like the birthday. It was like I had a good time on my birthday. You know, I don't remember what it said, but it was really it was just
There's all these like little details inside the show that I really, you know, I think add so much character to the world. You know, and it's like the introduction of these animal humanoids. Into this world where like humans are like just part of it, you know, and like there's no like this weird segregation about it, and I love that too, that was not brought into this because that's obviously not what the show is about.
Yeah.
But I like that there is like all this discussion about these lives, these complex lives, and just to bring in these animals as if they're just part of it, and then all the animal like lifestyles, you know, like the way, and I mean, there's there's an episode where chickens talk about feeding chickens to people, and nobody knows chicken like chicken. So obviously people are still eating fried chicken, but chickens are sentient beings in this world, and they explain it away like, oh, no, these are grown versus these are people chicken.
Yeah.
And you know, so obviously there's lots of stuff like that. I still don't understand why bears are like do what they do.
I don't know.
You know, with their weird growly stuff. I can't help but feel that's supposed to be like a racial thing, but I don't know.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of little things, and I dig that. So, but to come back to your point about the sadness, it's the sadness of the characters is resolvable within like this realistic human world, whereas like say something like Attack on Titan, or I mean even I personally do not like when a character I like a character struggling. There's no problem with that. That builds character, but I don't like when a character is bad stuff is thrust upon them and it's like in no way their fault. And I know life is like that because you can be a good person and bad stuff can happen to you. And I'm not saying but you can, but it's just within certain bounds. Like, you know, I know I haven't finished watching it with you yet, but what was that little puppet show that you were showing me?
Moral Oral?
Moral Oral, yeah. Like where he gets shot by his dad and he's like almost bleeding to death and he's trying to be, but he's always just trying to be a good kid. And it's like that unrealism, and I know you tell me that later on that does get resolved, but that realism, or that lack of realism where his dad gets his comeuppance, you know, like his, and then Moral Oral's genuinely suffering, but then they try and contrast it with sort of like his dad, like, oh, I'm just a goofy Christian, and it's like, that doesn't work for me, because it's like, now you're making me feel sad for Moral, but you're trying to balance it out with this goofiness, and it doesn't, in my opinion, doesn't work that well, versus, again, coming back to Bojack, where Bojack, sabotages his relationships with everybody that he loves and knows and his friends and his loved ones, and how he does it. And you can see even though he's a cocky prick, like he does it because that's obviously not what he wants, and he doesn't know that's not what he wants.
Yeah.
You know, so it's his fault, and it can be rectified if he would just stop being a jerk for like 5 seconds.
Yeah.
So sadness is not the problem. It's when it's forced sadness, it's when it's like synthetic sadness. This has been way more real than a lot of things I've seen.
Okay, that's a fair point. I'm quite the opposite. I will watch a sad movie because I need to cry. So
yeah,
but that's just me. So
sad movies won't make me cry, but if you want to make me cry, give me a scene where a dog is hurt or dying, and
oh yeah, then you bawl like a baby because you have such a bleeding heart for dogs.
So yeah, and so in a nutshell, the show itself has definitely grown. Negative critique wise, I mean, no, actually, I still want to stick to the positive for a little bit. The animation's definitely gotten better.
Yeah.
And not just the animation, but the art style. Like, you know, like, and let's not forget the different animation styles that they tried. There was 2 that I can remember where it was like this weird sort of cutout thing, you know, like little characters just bouncing on the screen, very flat, you know, no background type of thing. And then there was one where Princess Caroline walks into a painting and is like all serene. And that's one of the things that definitely explains Bojack's emotions too, is Princess Caroline going into that painting and thinking, oh, this is what happiness is going to be like. Because you've seen that scene before where people like stare at a painting and it's like, oh, that's what I want from life. I want to stare at the serene mountainside from a nice cabin in the woods. Would you really want to do that for the rest of your life? Is that what you want to do? Is that what you're, you know, it's like, no, you want to create, you want to, you know, like especially characters like Princess Caroline, like she wants to be an agent and she wants to make sure that the right people get into the positions and, you know.
In a way, she thrives off of chaos, you know?
Yeah, and some people are like that. You don't, and that's what happens in that scene. It's like she's in there and then all of a sudden her daydream sort of starts falling apart. And I think that's where she realizes, like, no, I don't want to be complacent. I need to be busy. I need to be chaotic. Even if my life is shambling around me, that's more exciting than being comfortable in this office. You know, even though this is where I've worked to be and I've worked hard to get there, I've now reached complacency and I don't want that.
I think that's a very human condition, you know, when you work so hard to achieve the thing that you want to achieve, and then you've achieved that thing and you're not happy anymore. And just, it feels like your life is being very chaotic. Like I frequently worry about that myself. I mean, I remember a coworker of mine way back when, put it to me very, very eloquently. She said it was, dang, it just left me. It was like, comfortable misery is what she called it, I think. Yeah. Where it's like you're miserable, but you don't want to change anything about your life, but you just want to be miserable.
Well, I mean, I listened to this other podcast that talks about like sort of like economics in general. I suppose I could plug it, Freakonomics. I do recommend listening to it. It's not just about economics. It's basically a look at the world through an economist's eyes. And one of the things that they talked about was sort of the reason why like we won't give up on something, you know, and giving it was the particular episode was to give you how giving up is bad or good actually, and you've put like all this time and effort into something and learning a skill and becoming good at it, like you know, so say getting into a position of power like Princess Caroline, and she's gotten to that point where she's worked really hard to get there, and if she gives up now, she's basically throwing all that work away.
Yeah.
But people forget that you've gained all that experience and that stays with you, and you know, it's not like you're just giving that all up. And so she would rather be comfortable in this going nowhere position than to be uncomfortable restarting or throwing away all that experience. And then when you sort of realize, no, but I was happiest when I was trying to better myself rather than, you know, and it doesn't matter if you throw that away because you're just going to keep bettering yourself. You can sometimes go back to those places unless you burn a bridge or whatever. But for the most part, yeah, you can go back. You might start a bit lower, but I mean, so is life. I mean, you have to take risks, I think, in order to be happy.
Yeah.
And I can definitely relate to that. I mean, you know, I've taken a lot of risks just getting here to Canada, and
I thought I was taking a lot of risks, but boy,
well, we all are. I mean, it's not like it's not a competition. But the idea is definitely something that humans can relate to. The moment you get complacent and stuck in a position, you think you're happy because this is what you've worked for your entire life. Like this is what I want to be, and then you forget how to be happy because the happiness actually came from working and chasing that dream. And I'm not saying all your dreams need to end with you being unhappy. But your dream shouldn't end with you not doing anything.
Yeah, actually,
and that's a big part of this. I think that's what I'm taking away a lot from BoJack.
You know, actually, like I had a philosophy teacher that he said the reason capitalism works so well is because it thrives on that temporary moment of happiness when you work really hard, you save up the money to get that iPhone or that big screen TV or that PlayStation. Whatever, you know, whatever generation of PlayStation.
You're basically getting that fleeting moment of happiness.
Yeah.
And and the thing is, it's like, yeah, I've worked really hard to get the item that I've spent all this money on. But you forget that the working really hard part was part of it. It's part of what got you excited and alive and fresh. And, you know, once you get to that point where everything is just given to you, you sort of start failing as a human, you know? And I mean, this is exactly where, you'd get a lot of like socialism versus communism versus capitalism arguments, definitely. Where it's like, oh yes, but if everyone's given everything, they're not going to work hard. And it's like, no, that's not how the problem works. But I mean, we're not going to get into that.
That's a completely different podcast.
Yeah, but the idea is definitely but this is when you brought up capitalism. But the idea is, I think a lot of people are scared of communism/socialism because those ideas are like, oh, you'll get all that stuff, and you won't work hard to then get the other stuff. And the other argument is like, no, but once we have the basics, we can at least move on to making more advanced stuff. So yeah, I've
just been, you know, I browse online. I see people talking about that a lot. I'm quite curious as to where it'll go, if it'll go anywhere. But yeah, hey, we're in an ever-changing future, so but yeah, back to BoJack. But happiness is basically the entire theme of this whole season.
Yeah, well, I mean, even season 1, really, if you think about it, like BoJack starts off. I mean, how were you introduced to BoJack? Being this washed-up TV star who's just sitting in his mansion, you know, in Hollywood, and
well, it's not really a mansion, but it's definitely a beachside house. It's that piece of property is well over $1 million. Couple $1 million.
But that's how it starts, you know. And he starts in an unhappy situation, and so I mean, and then obviously he wants to create his book and his memoirs, and then he wants to get into his movie, and it's like, and that's the thing, like you see the struggles of him in season 1, getting out of that rut and moving into being back into a movie star, because to him he was the happiest when he was a movie star. But as we've seen in season 2, a movie star, like a star. In season 2, we've started noticing how that's been backfiring on him.
Yeah. And like, in a way, it was really wonderfully put, because, you know, this is how life works out, because you work really hard. Because in the first season, like, his whole thing was that I want to make a Secretariat movie because he was my hero as a kid. And the movie, like, pretty much, I mean, it goes well at first, but then at some point, it all starts falling apart.
Yeah, like in a really weird way.
Yeah. But that's kind of just how life is sometimes. Sometimes the thing that you work really hard for doesn't work out. But I don't know. I guess the reason that we enjoy it so much is because it is balanced with a lot of really witty humor. It's definitely not laugh out loud funny. Like, it's not riot laughter funny, but it's definitely clever, and you definitely get quite a few giggles and a few chortles.
It's a good balance between, like, the puns, for example, are not overt. They're not like the characters are saying them, like the foxhole, for example.
Yeah,
that's done in the background. And if you don't understand a foxhole and that foxes are shooting the guns out of it, then you're like, okay, whatever. You know, it doesn't matter. Those are jokes that don't matter. But there's a lot of animal pun jokes in the background.
Yeah.
I mean, like, one of my favorite jokes still from season 1 is the gecko lady, where, like, everybody's like, Princess Caroline's this cat, and like Cameron Crowe is a crow, or he's a raven, I guess. And then you meet, like, Sarah Gecko, or whatever her name is. Gecko is her surname, and she's a human being. Like, her surname is Gecko, and it's like, I thought that was really good, but they don't introduce you. Like, they talk about her like in 2 episodes or something in the background, and you think, oh, she's obviously a gecko, and then you meet her and she's not, and she's a human. And I think that's like, it's subtle, it's throwaway, but I think it's clever. You know, it's a nice little throw in there.
Yeah. Like, I don't know, a lot of the dialogue was really funny. I can't think of anything right now, but I remember quite a number of pieces of dialogue they were just really lovely, like, really cleverly written. Just that little, like, enticing, I really like this kind of humor.
Mr. Peanut Butter's also been developed a lot better in season 2.
Yes, I definitely agree.
Like, he's not just the lovable idiot character. He's still an idiot, but, like, in the way that dogs are idiots, you know, that they're just friendly. But eventually he has gotten pushed, you know, like, he's one of those characters where, yeah, fine, I got pushed, well, I'm just going to keep going. You know, and I mean, sure, the bad stuff that's happened to him isn't nearly as bad as, say, the other characters, which that could probably be one of the things I could definitely complain about. It's like, everybody has to have a problem. And it has to be these, like, the only one arguably that hasn't really had any problems other than the secondaries is Todd. You know, he's doing goofy stuff in the background, you see, and that's the goofy thing that sort of, I like Todd. I think he's a funny character, and I like that he's there, and he definitely balances. Like, and if you think about it, Todd is the goofy animal sidekick.
Yeah, he kind of is.
Right?
He's the human.
Yeah, he's the human in the group. There's Princess Caroline, Bojack Horseman, and Mr. Peanut Butter, and then I guess Diane.
And not to mention, like, Bojack also gets a girlfriend. The
Lisa
owl.
Kudrow's owl, who was in a coma for 30 years, and the reason why he falls in love with her is because she doesn't know him. He was getting, like, fed up with being recognized, which in a few episodes later he starts, like, he's like, hey everybody, it's movie star Bojack Horseman, and it's like, and so that see, there's another critique I have, is, like, sometimes it feels like the characters can't, especially Bojack can't, but I mean, that's obviously what we were saying earlier, like, Bojack doesn't know what he wants. Does he want to not be recognized? Does he want to be a movie star? Does he not want to be a movie star? Why doesn't he go for practice? Why does he ruin his, you know, like, this opportunity? Why, like, if somebody wants to put him into theater, but he won't acknowledge it, you know? Even though, like, when it was announced, he was like, oh, that sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And throughout the season, there's the character Jill Pill, I believe, and I swear she's a pill bug. But, Jill Pill, like, you know, he, like, the first time he hears it, he's like, oh, that's weird. And then the second time he hears it, he's like, Jill Pill, I'm not interested in this, obviously, because he thinks it's a joke name. And then the third time he hears it, he's like, Jill Pill, like, as if he recognizes the name. And then Princess Caroline is like, yeah, on that show that you worked with, he's like, on Horsing Around. She's like, no, the other show. And then he's like, what? And he's like, oh, that one? And we're all like, what? Because we don't know of any other show. We only think that's the only thing he's ever worked on. So he's obviously, you know, we'll probably find out in season 3.
Yeah, it definitely, we will say this about season 2, it definitely does seem like it's building up to season 3, so I'm quite curious.
Yeah, and I mean, one thing I really dislike about sitcoms or TV shows like this is, and I think Bojack does it too, is we're giving you a girlfriend so you can dump her. Type of thing.
It definitely does feel like what. I
mean, I'm impressed that Peanut Butter and Diane's relationship is holding as strong as it is, considering the theme. So like I'm like, oh, I like where that's going. I mean, Mr. Peanut Butter has been crazy good in this season.
Yeah.
I didn't like him in season 1, but I like him in season 2.
He definitely has grown as a character.
Yeah.
Like he definitely, like, I think he's, because like there's a lot of basically, so catching up on season 1, Mr. Peanut Butter and Diane get married, and it seems as if like Mr. Peanut Butter, like he gets his own game show, and he seems to be growing into the role of being a husband.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's yeah, he seems like he doesn't always quite understand what's going through Diane's head, but he definitely is trying to be there for her.
Yeah, for sure.
Even if it hurts him. I mean, like even if it pains him, he starts to learn that, but this is what Diane wants, so I have to be the supportive one.
No, for sure. And that shows like especially towards the end of season 2.
Yeah. Oh man, that the thing that happens with Mr. Peanut Butter and Diane, I don't want to give it away, but I thought it was wonderfully done. It was such a unique way to solve that.
Like especially like from a supporting husband lover standpoint.
Yeah.
Other than that, I mean, so going back to my point about like giving couples just to break them up, and again, I get Bojack's sort of thing, his deal, but I mean, it's just I'm tired of like, I mean, I get annoyed with a lot of sitcoms that it's like, oh, here's the girlfriend, you're going to break up with her in 2 seasons or 2 episodes, and it's like I don't want to keep seeing that, you know, like. I don't know, but again, that is part of human beings. I guess we always need that relationship in order for us to feel like we're growing or getting somewhere, and it's part of it. I don't know what I would want in replace of it. It's something I am tired of seeing.
It does kind of feel like, you know, the titular character always needs the love interest of some kind, doesn't it? I guess that's kind of where the problem is that like, oh well, they're the titular character, we have to give them a love interest of some kind, and it's like actually I'm really glad. Well,
look, it doesn't feel that way though. Like we have to give him a love interest type of like main. It feels like it feels more sitcom-y, like you see, because the thing is the way I feel that is like, oh, we have to give them a main, you know, it's like, oh, there's the 4 boys and we got to give them the girl character type of mentality, and I don't think it's that.
I think I don't watch enough sitcoms. To be fair, I don't like sitcoms.
Yeah, the way I sort of I'm thinking it is more in this show in particular is they're giving Bojack an obstacle, and like a lot of his obstacles feel very natural, and even him sort of his relationships, like I mean his sexual or loving relationship with Princess Caroline in season 1 could happen because she's his agent, but season 2 we got this owl lady who wakes up from a 30-year coma, especially and he meets her at the point where he doesn't want people to recognize him.
Yeah,
you know, it's like contrived maybe, but you know, it's worked well. I mean, she's a fun character. I like her. She's definitely part of the cast now. I hope she stays.
She was also wasn't she also Phoebe from Friends?
Yeah, Lisa Kudrow is the name of the actress.
Let me just double check that, just so
I promise you, I was a Friends fan back in the 90s. Back in the 90s, you had a TV show. That's the end theme for the thing. Okay, well, I mean, I don't really have much else to really bash on the show, really. I mean, I don't want to bash on it. It's really good. As far as constructive criticism goes, man, there's not much criticism in that way that I can really give. I don't know if there's anything that you in particular aren't impressed with that you think they could do better.
Not really. I don't know. Like, there wasn't anything that really there wasn't any large thing that I didn't like about the show. It was basically a adding on to season 1, because I don't remember if I mentioned this on the last podcast, but I do remember thinking to myself very clearly, I kind of don't want a season 2 because I'm afraid, exactly as you felt, like I'm afraid they're going to ruin a good thing. Yeah. And they didn't.
Yeah, and also just to sort of add to that, season 2 also ends at a point where I'm like, I don't need a season 3. but now I want one.
Yeah.
Because if they did season 2 this well, I mean, then I'm actually a little looking forward to season 3. I'm not going to expect anything, because I think that's what also made season 2 really nice, was me not expecting anything. But season 3 came out, and I'm like really, yeah. Well, season 3 might come out, and I'll be like, yeah, I want to watch this.
Yeah. Oh, I'll definitely watch it if there's a season 3.
So yeah, well, let's just sort of talk about one or two of the episodes. One that I particularly want to discuss is the Uncle Hippopotamus episode, which was, I thought, when I immediately recognized what they were doing, it was Uncle Hippopotamus. He's also from like old school TV, from the 90s, and everybody loves him, and he'll just win awards because, hey, he's Uncle Hippopotamus, or whatever his name was.
I don't remember.
But he is a hippopotamus. And it turns out there are, like, so when Bojack and Diane are trying to plug their book, travel state to state and plug their book at different places, Diane lets out, like, that he's been accused of like bad stuff, like, oh, everyone's talking about Bojack and all the bad stuff he's done, and then Diane's like, oh, but there's been other celebrities that have done way worse stuff than Bojack, and then she lists some, and one of them is Uncle Hippopotamus guy, and people start like freaking out, like, hey, what are you talking about? What did he do? And she's like, what are you talking about? It's like on public record. We have information like he has harassed women, and obviously that's a reference to the whole Cosby situation that we're at right now. The allegations, I mean, we have to be very careful on a podcast. I do have my opinions on that, and they're very strongly against Cosby. I'll definitely say that much, but the allegations against Cosby, this is what it's mirroring. And at the time of this release, it was like only like 9 women in the cartoon show, right?
Yeah. So it was 8, I think.
Yeah, it was like they were talking about like 8 women were being harassed by this guy, and at the time, I mean, I remember when there were 8 women being announced. I would assume the story was written at the same time, and to actually get that story written, approved. I mean, Netflix, I think, definitely get a lot more freedom from the networks, because if this wouldn't have worked, like, say, on Fox or whatever. Not that Bojack Horseman would have ever appeared on Fox, but like there was definitely.
It might have worked on cable though.
Yeah, but yeah, if they wanted to stay away from the controversy, how some people can get like some.
Oh, absolutely.
So this could have only worked like on an online thing, like Netflix, I think, or YouTube, but Netflix in particular, because I guess a lot of people are watching it. So like 7 million people in the US alone. So at the time when they were writing the script, I guess they only had the information of like up to 8 women, and this is not the only time that they do this type of thing, right? Where they're making sort of parallels to what's happening in real life. They did the same thing with the Scientology thing, but instead of Scientology, which they start off, it's like well, basically it starts off with Todd. He's like, "Are you alone? Come join Scientology," and then immediately after that, like an improv group like gets him in, and that acts all like cultish. And then they actually have a sequence where they're like, no, we're not talking about Scientology. Scientology is not a cult. That's not what we're saying, but we are saying that improv is a cult. But everything else is parallels to Scientology, and it's like really clever, and obviously to avoid lawsuits and everything. But they start off with, hey, join Scientology. Oh no, never mind, join this other thing.
Yeah. Because you got to remember, Scientology is huge in Hollywood.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, I mean, if you want to avoid paying taxes, right?
Yeah.
We're gonna get killed. But yeah. So the same thing with back to this Cosby thing. And so I would have assumed because I mean at this point, like we're at like 25 to 30 women or something like that. I don't know the exact number.
Yeah, but I thought I read 40, but
well, it's one of those things where they've got like a lot more allegations, but some of the women don't want to like put their names out there.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Because a lot of those women got threatened with like saying stuff like, "Oh, you'll just never work in Hollywood again," type of thing, if you say anything bad about Cosby. And like, well, I guess they're not working in Hollywood, so they can come out with it now. But of course, statute of limitations is ruining this for everybody. But this is the whole thing. It's like now Diane starts fighting it, but then she wants to drop it because she doesn't want to ruin Mr. Peabody's show.
You mean Mr. Peanut Butter?
Mr. Peanut Butter's show, and
wrong dog.
But people keep antagonizing her and then saying stupid stuff like, why would you, why are you, like the whole feminist argument, like, why are you being a dickish feminist and all that stuff? And she's like, what are you talking about? There are like 8 women versus 1 man. Why is the reputation of 1 man so much more important than the lives of 8 women? And that's exactly what's happening. It's like, it's the whole thing is an allegory to the whole Cosby situation.
Yeah, the whole
and the fight against 1 woman, like the death threats that she was receiving. And I saw like a really funny, I don't think it was an SNL skit, but it was, I can't remember the skit, but it was basically like a whole lawsuit where it's like, look, we have all this evidence like mounting against this guy, against Cosby. And then Cosby's defense lawyer comes in and is like, it's not about Cosby doing all these bad things. It's about you not feeling icky. It's about you don't want to feel that you respected a man that made you feel good about yourself or made you laugh and all those nice memories. You don't want those memories to be tarnished. So why tarnish those memories? Just, make sure that he's okay. Don't make him guilty. Put him not guilty.
Sweep the whole thing under the rug.
Pretty much, because then you don't feel bad and we don't feel bad. And I mean, what's it? Why are the lives of 10, 20, 30 women more important than the lives of, I guess that's how it's, and the thing is, it's not a point of that we care about Cosby. We haven't cared about Cosby in like 10, 20 years. He does these comedy showcases and I don't think they're funny. I haven't laughed at a Cosby thing in years, and to be honest, I was not really a big fan of the Cosby Show growing up. I watched it and I laughed, but I'm not going to sit here and be like, I loved Cosby, but I definitely had respect for the man. And a lot of comedians had respect for him because they, and a lot of comedians I respected him. So by proxy, but yeah, like,
I guess like the thing to take away with this is, yes, he has done a lot of good, but that doesn't,
you don't cancel the bad out with the good.
Yeah.
You don't like, it's just how it's always been. Like, I mean, I know for years, like the Catholic Church, for example, likes to, you can actually pay like a penance in advance to go commit a sin.
I remember. I remember learning that about in like medieval history.
Yeah,
like,
but
basically you could pay your way into heaven.
Pretty much, and you still technically can.
Oh, that's.
But technically, I mean, they don't really. You have to have a certain amount of money, I suppose.
Oh, jeez.
But the argument, it's definitely. It's like he did these horrible things to women. He did, and he like 8 women have been oppressed by this man. Oh, okay, but he started a school for unempowered black people. Okay, well now 10 women.
Are we talking about Cosby or Bojack Horseman now?
Cosby.
I know, but
that's what I've been talking about for a while.
I know you're getting on your.
No, but we're talking about the good and the bad.
Oh, okay, all right. Well, so I was just afraid you were going to go off on a.
Okay, I mean, I'm just trying to talk.
I'm sorry.
But so it's and then so every like the bad stuff that he does not, or the good stuff that he does not cancel out the bad. It doesn't work that way, and they definitely try and address this in BoJack Horseman too, because they're like, oh, look at all the fun stuff that he's done for us, and I mean they don't even talk actually about Hippo Man. I don't know what his name is. They don't talk about him like starting up schools or anything like that, but they do. In other news, sorry to deviate, but they did take the bust of Cosby off at the Disney, at one of the Disney lands or world or something.
Oh, like, I remember reading about that.
Yeah, he had a bust on there, and so they've taken it off. Which I'm like, yeah, fucking do it. Because I mean, if a soldier were to do this, if he earned medals of honors, or if Olympians like are found guilty of some things later on, like they lose their medals, and it's like this guy should not, should be held accountable for it too. And so I think at least they are bringing people's attention to it more. If you can sort of connect the dots, which it's not that, it's very obvious.
The whole episode was very tongue in cheek for me because it does touch on those issues.
But they also make a lot of points from.
No, they made a lot of really good points. I'm not critiquing them about it.
But not just. No, this is back to the BoJack Horseman episode. But it's not just. It's not just now. Like from Diane's point of view, it's not just her now fighting against this hippo guy, which she does give up at the end. What it is it's also her husband worrying about her safety. But people are threatening her life, and yes, from a just world, Diane standing up for those women and then getting more support. And when she tried to get more support from that one girl, but that one girl was helping Hippo get away with it. And that's what happens. It's like, they get bribed or tricked into, or frightened or strong-armed into not doing what they, what they should be doing to stop stuff like that from happening again in the future. And so, I mean, Diane had a choice. Like, she could either ruin her husband's career or stop, and so she did. She just stopped making allegations. She was like, not going to talk about it. And, I guess they, like, that episode definitely felt like it was put in there, like maybe something else was taken out. And I'm glad they did it. I'm really, really happy with it. But I do believe Cosby, like, it should not be forgotten. Not again. Not like it was last time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it.
But yeah, sorry to get all deep on you folks, or make this a heavy show.
Well, it is a heavy show.
Yeah, BoJack Horseman it's clever and it's great. I love it. It sets the drama and the tragedy and the comedy. It's got both of those masks right there, and it balances it really well.
Yeah.
Is there any other particular episode you wanted to talk about? That was my favorite episode of the season, really.
I think I actually really liked the episode in which it was the Higher Love, in which what was it? One of the like the Hollywood agents is found dead from autoerotic asphyxiation. And so Bojack is on the set of his movie, and he finds out that one of his co-stars is into autoerotic
asphyxiation. No, I'm not saying it. Asphyxiation.
Thank you.
Asphyxiation. Asphyx. Butt repair.
Wesley.
Anyway, yes, continue what you liked about the show.
Yes. I don't know. I really liked that because I think it was earlier in the episode or the episode before in which Bojack accidentally says to, what is the owl's name? Do you remember?
I don't remember
Wanda.
Her name. Oh, okay, there we go.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. Well, anyway, continue, please.
Sorry. So Bojack accidentally says, "I love you" to Wanda, the owl, his owl girlfriend,
mm-hmm.
and so he like immediately tries to correct it by saying, "Haha, just kidding," and then he goes out the door and he's like, "Why did I do that?" And he like gets all embarrassed.
And I love the little fact like he had forgotten his car keys back inside the house, so he's like, "Screw it, I'm just gonna go and walk."
Yeah,
or he steals a pram or a stroller.
Yes, and so he talks to this guy who actually gives him his autoerotic asphyxiation kit, and so apparently there's a kit, or he made one, and so Bojack is actually pretending to be into that so he can get Wanda to say, "No, don't do that to yourself. I love you too much." But in her eyes, it's just, we're just basically like, we're just in it for the sex of it or whatever.
Oh, really? Is that what the way I took away from Wanda in that episode was he said, "I love you," just kidding, ran away, and then he comes back later and is like, "Okay, just, because they needed to clarify it or whatever." And she's like, "Don't worry, I don't love you either." And then that's where he gets into the whole asphyxiation thing.
Yeah.
And so he's like, "Oh, if she loves me, then she'll, prove it or whatever." And I don't think she was saying, "I don't love you. I'm just in it for the sex of it." I think she was saying it because, like, she didn't want him to feel uncomfortable, or maybe at least teach him a lesson about it. It's like, look, what you're doing to me is what I'm not doing to you.
I was definitely having trouble, articulating it. That's for sure. But I don't know. I really love that episode because I don't know. It sort of shows. It shows how broken Bojack is when it comes to relationships. Like, he can't really seem to function normally in a relationship. Like, he is always like, even when he discovers that he likes Wanda, and he actually, like, the first time that they sleep together, he like has this whole moment of like, I want to do things with you with our clothes on. Like
like I've had sex with you. Why do I still want you here?
Yeah.
It's like I don't want you to leave. I don't, and he doesn't understand that concept.
Yeah. So I don't know. It was a fun little episode. It was very awkward, but I don't know. It was definitely different. It was a very.
It definitely helped you sort of. It softened you up to like Bojack a bit more, because in the end he is still a jerk. I mean, even the sequence where with his old friend's daughter, but like that whole sequence, like the whole time he is trying to be a good guy, but for some reason life still sort of manages to throw him a curveball.
Yeah. Oh, that's definitely toward the end. I will say I loved, because I am incredibly picky when it comes to television showing New Mexico. In fact, I can be kind of a jerk when I watch that Dan versus episode. Apparently the Dan versus show, the first episode is Dan versus Albuquerque.
No, Dan versus New Mexico.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Dan versus New Mexico. And it was like the entire time, like I'm watching this with my friend, and I'm like, that's wrong. We don't have those cacti in New Mexico, and I'm being kind of a jerk about it, and I feel bad. But see, often at times when people try to do New Mexico, they often do Arizona.
Look, I'm with you behind that. Like when people represent your area, there's that movie Blood Diamond where Leo DiCaprio does a South African accent, and it's terrible. It's like the worst thing I've ever heard in my life, but he's doing it, and apparently instead of hiring a South African actor, let's hire Leo, which I mean gets you more views, I suppose.
Yeah, but no, I was incredibly impressed. Like it definitely got the aesthetic down, like that. I don't know, like especially his old friend, the deer character that made a brief appearance in season 1. Like she never actually appeared per se.
That was all flashbacks.
Yeah, it was all flashbacks. And so he actually goes, like toward the end of the season, he actually goes to visit her.
Yeah, he's definitely held something, and again, this is like a big thing about Bojack. It's like, oh, I remember when I felt good about that one thing, like 20 years ago, 30 years ago, and now I want to keep chasing that rather than appreciating what he does have now. And that's exactly why I can get behind his sadness, is because he doesn't understand what he wants to be happy.
Well, that's how miserable people, well, I say miserable people, but
I think people in general.
Well, yeah, people in general, that's true.
Even
right?
happy people don't know that they're happy sometimes, or that, it's being happy is complicated, especially in modern happiness.
Yeah, and, I mean, as someone who has gone through depression, like, I remember that feeling. I have that problem now, like, I forget to be happy for the things that I have. I always am nostalgic for the things that I had. I don't know, so it definitely hit home for me, but I appreciated it. I appreciated the way that they portrayed it, the way that the way that Bojack is just constantly chasing this this happiness that doesn't exist.
Yeah, it exists in his mind, but it's like whenever he gets it, he's like, oh wait, this isn't what I wanted.
Yeah.
And he doesn't know how to be happy, which is not a unique problem to him, but it's definitely somebody we can relate to.
Yeah, and I think even
because there isn't a book how to be happy.
No,
because that's just not how it works. There's different happinesses for different people. Some people's happiness is riding a boat on the open sea. Other people is working super hard for the rest of your life. Other people being challenged every day for the rest of your life. Like, I'm going to do 10 years of this and then 10 years of something completely different. That's just how that is. And maybe the show's trying to touch on that. I don't know. I think maybe I'm giving the show too much credit with it, but we're considering the different happinesses of all the different people. Diane in her humanitarian ways.
Oh yeah.
Bojack and his acting career. Caroline and her, agency, being an agent. I mean, the only one that seems to sort of have his life in any way, shape, or form sorted is Peanut Butter. And even then, it's like because of Diane, because of Bojack, it's like these weird sort of things. I mean, Peanut Butter does snap at Bojack in one episode, right? So, I mean, even in season 1, he snaps at Bojack.
Yeah. Mr. Peanut Butter definitely has a lot more capacity. Like, he definitely... he's a dog, right? He can be, if he is given things and given exciting things, he's pretty much like he has a brief period where he works at Lady Foot Locker, and he's just happy to be working, you know?
Yeah, it's like it doesn't matter that he isn't an actor, it's that he's now doing something.
Yeah, I think that's the important thing for Peanut Butter, is that he needs to do something.
And as a dog, I mean, that's dogs, right? They don't like being sort of cooped up, especially, I guess, Labradors. But yeah, I mean, that's in comparison. It's like, it's not like everybody else, Diane and Bojack in particular. They think, oh, if I'm a prolific writer or if I'm a prolific actor, then I'll be happy.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily what it's about.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're looking for that artificial happiness rather than like pursuing the genuine happiness that would make them happy.
Yeah. And I think that question comes up quite often, especially toward the end of the season, in which all of the characters is like, well, if I did X, would I be happy? And then they like, if I did X for the rest of my life, would I be happy? Or if I did X...
But they jump into it a lot of the time.
Yeah, well...
It's like, oh, if I do X, I'll be happy. It's not, if I do X, will I be happy?
Well, that's why I said toward the end of the season, they actually asked themselves, okay, I'm doing X, or I've tried to do X, but if I do X for the rest of my life, will I be happy? Or once I finish with X, would that make me happy? And often at times, the answer is no, not really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's one of those shows that is a lot cleverer than you would even expect it to be, and it hits the emotional, steps at the right time.
It's definitely not something that you.
And it's not just emotional; it's clever too. I mean, I wouldn't say it's intellectual exactly, but it makes you stop and think about yourself, and I guess you could argue it's spiritual, quote unquote.
Yeah, it's definitely not as junk foody television as I expected it to be. Yeah, because usually, like, I remember coming home from work when I worked in retail, I would go home and I'd watch like Adult Swim cartoons just to like make my brain shut up. This is not one of those shows.
I had the opposite experience with Adult Swim cartoons. When I would watch Adult Swim cartoons, my brain was like on all the time because there was just so many references that you had to like know, and it was like, there's a reference, I think I know that, and my brain would like dig into the far recesses of my mind. It's like, that's what they're referencing, and I'm like, and then like after like an hour and a half of cartoons, I'd be like, I'd just like be fried. I couldn't.
I guess it would. Well, because I'd watch things. It would depend on what I'm watching. Like if I'm watching anime or something, yeah, definitely my brain's on. But if I'm watching like, I remember watching. I would watch Aqua Teen to make my brain shut up, or I would watch.
And I suppose there are exceptions, yeah.
Yeah, I would watch Metalocalypse to make my brain shut up. You know.
Yeah. I'm thinking more like C-Lab and what's the one with the lawyer?
Oh, Harvey Birdman.
Harvey Birdman.
No, Harvey Birdman was surprisingly clever. Yeah. No.
Well, maybe one day we'll review those or talk about them at least.
I've actually never. I've never really, I never got into Harvey Birdman until it just got off the air, so I really missed something with that.
Oh man, if only there was some sort of international network where we could get them.
I know, right?
Oh well, maybe one day. Okay, so we're going to wrap up here. I'm going to say, I don't know how you want to do your review thing, but I will definitely say give Bojack Horseman a watch.
If you haven't seen season 1.
Watch season 1, watch season 2, get it all done.
Mm-hmm. We pretty much watched it over like a 2-day period.
Yeah, if you like, I mean, both of them. We watched season 1 of Bojack Horseman also pretty much in 2 days. I mean, I know we had like a week break in between, but we watched like a lot on a Saturday and then the following Saturday.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas this time we watched Friday, Saturday, and finished it last night.
We were just too excited.
It was, well, I mean, it definitely does that soap opera thing where it's like, where cliffhangers, right? There's always like and Bojack, he screwed something up. Find out next episode how to fix it. And it's like, you motherfuckers, just let me through. Let me just, wrap it up nice.
Let me go to bed. It's 2 a.m.
Exactly. Like but I mean, the whole design of binge watching is how shows are made nowadays. Yeah. It's like that. You want to watch the second one or the next episode. Mm-hmm. I don't know. What about you?
Definitely watch season 1 if you haven't already. If you liked season 1, definitely recommend season 2. It just builds on the last season, and you'll probably love it as much as you did this one, as the first one. So it doesn't get as existential as the first one, but it definitely delves more into, I guess, the psychology of it. Okay. So, yeah.
Sure. And that'll be that for BoJack Horseman, season 2.
Fingers crossed for season 3.
Yeah. I'm. They have my support. I would. Yeah. Heck, this would even be a show I'd consider putting on a DVD collection if it wasn't so easily available on Netflix.
I think as long as Netflix is around, so will BoJack Horseman be.
Yeah. So do you have any? Yeah, I'm going to be so sad the day Netflix becomes sort of executive trash again. Ugh. Well, not again, but like how TV shows or free spirit stuff like this happens.
Well, cable started off by, it's like, hey, pay for TV and you won't get commercials. And then commercials happen. Yeah. And I was like, oh.
Oh, yeah, I will cancel my Netflix if they put commercials on. I will say that much right now. Yeah. It's not like they're not making money. But if they're going to be greedy about it, then no. But, yeah. Do you have anything you want to plug?
Just my usual, my Tumblr, my DeviantArt. My DeviantArt is narrowstreet.deviantart.com. My Tumblr is neuroticartist.tumblr.com.
Okay.
I need to update more, but this last episode completely fried me. So
yeah, we'll, I haven't made a new art piece online for a while.
We've been super busy with stuff. Let's just put it that way.
For me, you can find me at thelastboon.tumblr.com. That's my art blog, but then I've also got like just a normal whatever. And then, you can also watch me. A friend of mine has started a playthrough channel, a Let's Play channel, and I'm in 1 or 2 episodes there. I don't know what's going to be aired yet, but I know I'm on the Rise Star playthrough. At least, and that is on YouTube at Game by Frame, which is like Game X Frame. And yeah, we pretty much just a bunch of animators who talk about the stuff we like about video games and how angry they make us sometimes.
Especially you,
yeah.
We're playing.
I can get quite, well, I mean, yeah, it depends. Anyway, so there's a Rise Star playthrough with me in it. I played the Bloodborne playthrough. Almost I just talk in the background.
I'm only in the background for the end of the Rise Star.
Yeah.
Just because Wesley really needed to concentrate on the boss.
Hey, we hit some technical difficulties and lost a little bit at the end of the show, but we basically wrapped everything up and said goodbye. So thanks again for listening, and we'll catch you next time.